Hi there, this is Mary Coffee, and I just want to talk to you today about color. How does it make you feel? Color evokes lots of emotions, and artists use color to try and express what they're feeling and to try and evoke a feeling from you, the viewer. Today we're going to talk about the color wheel. Here are two versions of the color wheel, and the color wheel you're probably familiar with is a good place to start when you're trying to understand color. The primary colors are represented here as yellow, red, and blue. These are the colors that you can't mix any other color with to create. But the secondary colors, orange, purple, and green, are colors that you can mix, that you get when mixing two other primary colors. The reason that you even bother with making a color wheel first is twofold. One is so that you get an understanding of the various primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. Those are mixed with when you take a primary yellow in this case and a secondary orange, and you come up with a yellow orange, or over here I've already done it. You take blue, a primary color, and green, a secondary color, and you come up with blue green. And here all of the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors are represented in their main, straight out of the tube, and then mixed without any other darks or lights added, whites or blacks or grays. As you move in, there are other colors that are added to get a wide variety of tints and hues and shades and tones. But the reason that you even care, why do I care about a color wheel, is because when you're painting and the color that you have chosen is just a little too bright, too much in your face, if you just look at across the color wheel to the complementary colors opposite each other on the color wheel, and add a little bit, in this case if you're painting with blue, you add a touch of orange, you will be able to tone that down. It's also nice to know how colors play with each other. Analogous colors are colors that are neighbors on the color wheel. So blue, green, and blue, green, green and yellow, green, these and purple, these are all cool colors, and they play very nicely together on the canvas. These top ones are warmer colors, think colors of the fire, red, orange, yellow, and these are analogous colors, and they play very nicely together, kind of like friendly neighbors. But if you want colors to vibrate against each other, some real contrast and drama, combine a large amount of one color and a smidge of the opposite complementary color, and then you can have some real drama going on your artwork. So today we're going to mix up some paints, another skill. That's the second skill. The first is to figure out what colors go well together and what colors vibrate against each other, and then also to learn the skill of mixing colors. So we're going to mix up some yellow, reds, and blues to come up with secondary and tertiary colors. And we'll do that in just a minute. Thanks for joining me. Okay, are you ready to mix some paint and make a color wheel? This is what we're going to be doing today. Something like this. Yours may look better, may look not quite as good, somewhere in between. Doesn't really matter. The process is what is important. The process of learning how to mix colors, and eventually this can be used as a resource to help you remember what the complementary colors are, the colors across from each other on the color wheel, as well as what the analogous colors are, the colors next to each other on the color wheel. So that's why you need to make a color wheel for a resource, and also to help you try mixing paint before you get to your canvas. Okay, here is a simple version, just 6 segments. If you want to try that, that just has the primary colors yellow, red, and blue, and the secondary colors orange, green, and purple. This is a more advanced one. This one has the 12 colors, the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary. It also has rings. So the outer ring is the pure color or hue, and the next ring is tint. Here I added white to each one of the colors. The next ring in is our tones. Tones are hue or color mixed with gray, and of course you can mix gray by mixing black and white. So this makes, when you add gray to a color, it makes a tone, and then the innermost is the color mixed with black, and that is the shadow, or the shade, I'm sorry, the shade. It's important to know how to mix these colors, because when you want to do shadows in your artwork, this is how you would do it. You would either add black for a shade or gray, depending on what look you were going for. But today we're just going to start with 12 sections. No inner rings. And I just started with a piece of cardstock. I have a circle drawn on a piece of cardstock. You can use cardstock, you can use watercolor paper, you can use mixed media paper. I would recommend you don't use computer paper because it's too thin and it won't accept the wet paint and water well. It will buckle. So what I've done is I've drawn a circle. You can use a plate. I've used a lid to a measuring bowl, and then I drew I divided the circle in half horizontally and vertically and horizontally. Just eyeball where the center is, and then use a straight edge and draw through the center vertically, horizontally. And then we need to take each quarter of the circle and divide it into thirds. And this is tricky without a compass. We're not going to use a compass. We're just going to eyeball where 1/3 and 2/3 are on this quarter. Then you take your straight edge and you line it up with that hash mark and the center point, and draw your line through your complete circle, and there you will have 12 sections. I'm going to go ahead and label them yellow so I don't get lost. And this will be yellow dash orange, a tertiary color. All the tertiary colors are hyphenated. This is orange, O-R-A-N-G-E is all I can get on there. This will be red, orange. This will be red, primary color. And then it would be red, violet, violet or purple, blue violet, and then this is blue, this is blue green, green, and finally yellow green. All right, so to begin this, you need a flat brush, one with a straight edge. Oh, didn't finish wiping that off. And then you need some clean water and some paints. I have here craft paint. These all three happen to be, or four actually, I'm going to use four, happen to be from Americana. But these 2-ounce bottles of craft paint are a great place to get started. They're available at Michael's and Walmart and Hobby Lobby. Now, I would caution you that the names of the colors are not necessarily the same names as the colors of professional grade colors. So that makes it a little tricky. This though is cadmium yellow, and it is kind of a warm yellow. You can see by this color. It's kind of a warmish yellow. Here is primary blue. And the reds give me the most trouble. So here's primary red, and this is called alizarin crimson. And you can see hopefully on the tops that this one is a warmer color, leaning more towards orange or tomato soup. And this one is leaning more towards purple. And in order to mix violet or purple, you really need a cool red, a red with a cool bias. To mix a good orange, you need a red with a warm bias or an orange bias. So that's why I'm going to use both of these reds to get going. All right, we're going to start where I like to start with yellow. Now I've dipped, my brush is a little bit damp, and I just loaded my brush up with paint. Not all the way up. You don't really want to get paint up into the metal part. And just start applying. Go slow, take your time until you get used to it. And for me, I like to fill in the main space and then go back and very slowly take that flat edge of your brush and run it along the line. You should get a nice straight edge. And then flip it over. Don't be afraid to turn your paper so that you get the best angle. And do the opposite edge. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm doing it this way. If you're left-handed, you would probably do opposite me. And then finish off by smoothing out your paint stroke so you have nice even application of color through the whole segment. Okay? Now I am not even going to clean my brush, and I'm going to go right to orange. So orange, to mix orange, you take yellow and just a tiny, tiny bit of the warmer red. Red is overpowering, so you don't want too much red. And so just start with little. It's easier to add more. You can't really take it out. You gotta just start with a whole new pile. And then mix to make sure that your paintbrush, you see there's some yellow bits on it. All the paint from your paintbrush needs to be incorporated in there and mixed evenly because you want to apply uniform color. Okay, how does that look? That looks pretty good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fill in the main section, turning the brush where we get to the narrow part. Go back, reload to get to the edges. Okay, and we just slowly press down, scooch up to the line, and drag it across the line. I don't know if anyone has painted trim before, but this is the same technique that I use. You kind of bend the bristles along the line so they follow the line. Go back in, bring it down as close as you can. Remember, you're not being graded on this, right? And fill in the whole segment and then even out the brush strokes. And I just dragged some green in there. Yikes. Now for a paint palette, I'm using this non-stick sheet that I got from Ranger. You can use a paper plate. That way you can just dispose of it when you're done. Okay, I did clean out my brush to get rid of the yellow because we're going to go right to the warm red. Okay. Red right here. Skip one, so it's yellow, primary color yellow, secondary orange, primary red. Here we are. Your brush should be a little bit wet, not a ton. The more water you add to your brush, the more your paint is diluted. Sometimes you want that effect and sometimes you don't. For a color wheel, we're trying to get the pure color, so try not to have your brush too wet. And I have a paper towel just next to me here in case I need to remove some of the water. Certainly as I'm changing the color of my brush and I wash out the other color there. All right, pretty good, pretty good. All right, I'm going to go back in with red on my brush, grab some yellow, and make a red orange. So this will be mostly red. Boy. It'll be redder than the orange, but it'll be more yellow than the red. So let's see what we end up with. That's a nice color. That'd be a good color for toenails in the summer. Right now it is early spring and I am ready for some toenails in the sand. Or at least a little bit of sun. There. Good. Again, even out the brush strokes so you have kind of an even, consistent layer. There we go. We're on our way. And I think I'm just going to go back in and grab some more yellow and try to come up with a yellow-orange. I have not needed to clean my brush. Let's see. I think we need more yellow. So you'll notice that the process of mixing colors is sort of like cooking. Adding spices. We're sort of following a recipe here. I gotta get some of that orange off, the red off. We're sort of following a recipe here. I need more yellow still because it's too orange. but we're adding, so it's like season to taste, right? So that's what we're doing here. Where, boy, it's still too yellow. You notice I'm moving away from the color, because if I kept adding yellow to this orange that I've already decided is too much of a secondary color orange, I bring it over here. So just grabbing a little bit of that and a lot more yellow. Otherwise, it would take 3 pounds of yellow in order to turn that. So it's really just best to start fresh. Okay, so we're making yellow orange. So season to taste. Just add the paint color little by little until it is pleasing to your eye. This is still pretty orange. Wow, it looks like the same color. So I'm going to go ahead and just add some more yellow. And I think I need more yellow still. Boy. Okay. Always make sure you give your paint jar a good shake, because the water, it does settle. All right, let's see. How much yellow do we need? Maybe this will do. That finally looks better. Wow. I told you red was fierce. Okay. The thing about acrylic paint, which I do like to use, is that it dries quickly. Is that good or bad? Depends. Sometimes it dries a little too quickly. All right. There we go. Now, I'm going to clean out my paintbrush and move some of this extra orange out of the way. And now I'm going to turn to the cooler side. And actually, I am going to remove this red and use a cooler, the Alizarin Crimson. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I have Alizarin Crimson. I'm going to squeeze out some more. There we go. And some blue. And we're going to try to mix a nice purple. Why don't you just go to the store and buy purple or orange? You can do that. But you still need to know how to mix colors, because inevitably, as you're painting, you will find that the color you want is not on your shelf waiting for you, and you're going to have to mix it. You're going to have to tone colors down. You're going to have to, because they won't be quite right straight out of the bottle. And this is just a really good exercise to learn how to mix colors to get them just as you like. Another interesting thing about colors is how they react when you put them down next to a different color. Color may look one color on your palette, but when you actually paint it onto your artwork, you paint it next to a different color, and it suddenly looks very, very different. So you need to be able to adjust on the fly. Okay, so now I'm mixing violet. I am mixing red and blue, and I think we need more. This actually looks pretty good for a blue violet, so I think I'm just going to add that. Oh, no, a little bit more. We're going to work our way over. Do you remember the Crayola crayons? And there was always the blue violet and the red violet, as well as the violet. This is what we're trying to replicate here. Is a violet that's got more blue in it, and then a violet that has more red in it, and then a violet that's straight up the middle. All right. I need to turn my wheel to get that corner. There we go. Again, smooth it out. There, that's nice. All right, let's see what happens when we mix this. No, let's see what happens when we mix a little more red into this. There, yep, there it is. A little more red. Now, I hope that the color is, you're able to discern these color differences on the video. If not, play anyway and make your own, because this may look very dark. It may almost look blue. excuse me, black. It may look very black, but actually it's coming out pretty well. And I'm glad I changed the reds, because this red, this alizarin crimson, does a much better job of coming up with purple than the primary red that I was using for the oranges. Okay, so now I'm just adding a lot more red and coming up with that red violet. Haven't washed my brush. So now this is looking a little more orchid color. One of my favorite colors. It's okay if you touch the next paint. By now it's very dry. There'll be no bleeding. Unlike with watercolor, you do have to be careful of that. Touching another wet section in watercolor will end up colors mixing and bleeding whether you like it or not. There we go. Nice. Okay. And now we're going to move from blue, I'm going to clean my brush, to blue green to yellow, yellow green. Okay, so we're making next step is green. Green is a mixture of blue and yellow. This looks to me like blue-green, so I'm putting this here in blue-green. And it looks like I'm going to have to add a whole lot more yellow to get that be a true green. And then yellow-green is a green that looks like the blades of grass and the plants that are coming up in the garden. It's spring green, a nice yellow green. All right, here we have blue green. Good. And I'm going to add lots more yellow to make it be green green. Okay. Making sure, oh, I have a big glob of blue on my brush. Let's get rid of that. A little more. Okay. See, I'm painting right up next to that blue-green, and there's no bleeding. With acrylic, that usually doesn't happen. All right, let me flip it around to get the other side, and we are just about ready for that spring green. Smooth out the colors, and I'm going to have to squirt out some more yellow right here into my green to get some green, nice yellow green. Oh yeah, there we are. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Slide down the line with slow motion, bent bristles, snugged up against the line. Flip it around, and we are almost done. All right, and we smooth out the paint color, the brush strokes. Nice. All right, there's your color wheel. So go ahead and give it a try. Mix up some paints and have some fun. All right, thanks for watching.